Good afternoon, Jason. I hope you're having a great Friday. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us yesterday. It was a pleasure connecting with you. And also, thank you for going over the information that you'd like to see and concerns as well that you have as far as a death benefit. In this video, just I'm going over the different fundings that we have prepared for you and incomes that we have prepared. We also have the detailed illustrations, which go more into detail and how the policies have been designed. With the Excel spreadsheet, we'll take a look at that. It just simplifies everything just to make it easier to read and see what we have prepared for you. You will notice in the Excel spreadsheet, we have different fundings. We have one showing the 300,000, 200,000, 100,000, and then 50,000. Let's take a look at the option of what if you decided to fund the policy at 300,000 starting at the current policy year. You are currently at the fifth policy year, and then funding it at the 300,000 for ninth year, and then a lower amount thereafter. Although you have the ability to pay in for those 10 years, you can always stop the funding before that time. We just wanted to show you the maximum payment that you can make at this time. You definitely have a good accumulated MEC space. So this just helps to accumulate the most cash value in the policy and also increasing the death benefit as well. So in this example, here we have the 300,000 being paid in. Here we have our cash value and our death benefit. In this particular option, we wanted to make sure that we kept a consistent death benefit throughout the times. And you'll notice that the death benefit just continues to climb throughout the years, which becomes quite healthy. And also your cash value is very nice and growing as the time goes by. In this example, we did not cut the term off, which means that the death benefit is continuing to climb. There is a term cost, which is not being satisfied out of pocket, is just being paid by the policy itself, because in this case, you're only paying for 10 years and then nothing else are after. We took that same funding where you're paying that amount of money for those 10 years. And then what we did in this case is that we did a reduced paid up. The reduced paid up allows us to cut the expenses from the policy completely. So there's no more expenses due. In this case, you'll notice that when we do the RPU, the death benefit does reduce. It's consistent at that 7.2 million for those 10 years. And then when we cut the term off, the death benefit takes a little bit of a dip. But then the next year it climbs back up. And then after that time, it goes back to that 7 million and grows a little bit stronger as the time goes by. We typically look at the reduced paid up just to optimize the cash value and also optimize the death benefit the most we can based on the funding and such. But we just wanted to show you what if you kept the term on and then what if you cut the term off and then seeing how that will perform. By cutting the term, again, it just gives you a little bit more cash value. And in essence, it does give you a little bit more death benefit as well. The next thing we'll look at is that we wanted to show you what is the maximum income you're able to pull out based on this funding. Assuming that you're continuing to do this funding, starting at the 11th year at the age of 58, you are able to take out a max income of 130,000 every single year until you're the age of 90. Here in this case, when it comes to income, the purpose is where the client says, hey, I want to be able to pull out income. And the intent is that I never want to pay back any loans ever. So there's no loan repayments whatsoever. When you're taking income out every year, you'll notice that your cash value will decrease as the amount of money that you're pulling out and also your death benefit as well. In this case, as an example, if you were to pass away at the age of 80, this will be the death benefit that will be payable to your beneficiaries. Now, a concern that you mentioned is that you wanted to make sure that your kids, and especially Jeff, is able to get a good death benefit in case of something happens to you. So we wanted to show you another option of what if we show the same funding, but what if you decided to take an income of 75,000 every year opposed to that 130. So it shows the income starting at the age of 58 and to the age of 90. In this case, because you are pulling less income every year, you'll notice that your cash value and your death benefit remains a little bit more steady, doesn't dip too much. It stays above that 5 million to the age of 90 and on, of course. Now, the next thing we did is what if you kept a more consistent death benefit, a little bit closer to that 7 million. So in this case, we showed an income of 50,000 being pulled out, again at the same age of 58 to the age of 90. In this example, you'll notice that the death benefit stays in that 6 million mark, which is quite healthy. Again, it all depends on what you guys prefer, and especially making sure that the kids are set for life, especially if something happens to you guys. We want to show you the different fundings as far as income when it comes to the max funding. We can do the same illustrations for the rest of the illustrations that we prepared. For the rest of the funding options, we did show only the maximum income available. So it gives you an idea on how it will perform. Now, in this example, in the second tab, we're showing what if you paid in the 200,000 from year 5 to year 10, nothing else thereafter out of pocket. Here's your cash value performance and your death benefit. Now, in this case, we're showing a little bit less funding, 200,000 every year, and we show the same example of what if we don't cut the term rider off. In this case, you'll notice that your death benefit stays at that 7.2 million, a little bit more steady until the age of 82. After the age of 82, that's where it starts climbing up a little bit more, and then it goes up to above that amount. Again, it's a good option. It gives you an idea how it performs, but it keeps a more consistent death benefit in this case. We took that same example and we ran it with the reduced paid up. Just like the 300,000, when we're doing the reduced paid up, that's where your death benefit drops. It goes from that 7.2 million to a little bit over 5 million, but then it begins to climb back up, and then it goes up to the 7 million mark at the age of 76. Your cash value is a little bit stronger by doing the reduced paid up, but your death benefit does reduce, but again, a good option to look at. And then we are showing the income scenario for this case. Based on the 200,000 being paid in for the next 5 years, you are able to pull out an income of 100,000 from age 58 to the age of 90. Here's your cash value and your death benefit and how it looks at this point if you decided to draw that income out every single year. Again, we can show the same sample where you say, hey, what if I took a less income and see how the death benefit works? We just didn't want to overwhelm you, but we can definitely show the samples for you. We did the same thing with that 100,000 funding. Here you'll notice that by doing the 100,000 funding and nothing else or after, we're keeping the term rider on. Here we have that consistent 7.2 million throughout the years, and it does continue to grow. Here I do want to point out something. At the age of 85, but by keeping the term rider on, again, by keeping the term rider on, there is a term cost that is not being paid out of pocket, but it's being paid by the policy itself. At the age of 85, just because you are getting older, that means that the term cost is getting a little bit more expensive. This is where you'll notice that the policy will require more payments to go in order to keep that death benefit at that 7 million mark. So it becomes more expensive. We always like to show this so that you're able to be aware of what if you decide to keep the term rider on and how it will affect your policy. Again, we took that same example where you're doing the same funding of 100,000, but we cut that term rider off, cut the expenses fully. This is where you notice that your death benefit drops, but then it goes back up slowly. But then at the same time, it does not require no more payments to be going in out of pocket. So in this case, we will always recommend doing the reduced paid up just to minimize the expenses throughout the time, and the policy is just performing full dividend, meaning that full dividends being applied to your cash value and it's not satisfying no cost whatsoever. We took that same funding and showing the maximum income available that you're able to pull out starting at the age of 58 to the age of 90. Here you'll notice your cash value and your death benefit and how it will perform, assuming that you're pulling out that income every year. The last example. What if you decided and said, "Hey, we're not going to max fund the policy the most we can. We're just going to pump in 50,000 for the next 5 years." This is how your death benefit will look like by keeping the term rider on. In this case, because you're only funding that 50,000 for the next 5 years, you will notice that it will require money again at the age of 85 in order to keep that term, the cost up of the term. Um, we took that same example and we did the reduced paid up. Again, by cutting the term rider cost, your cash value and your death benefit looks a lot better. And this is what we fully recommend. Then we showed what if you decided to do that funding and the maximum income you're able to pull out every year and how your death benefit is affected by that amount. I know this can be a lot of information. If you have any questions or would like to connect over a call and just go over questions or the samples itself, please let us know. I hope this is helpful. I hope you have a good weekend and we will talk to you soon.